There's strife and discord in Nigeria's Ekiti state following the just concluded primary election there. Biodun Oyebanji emerged as the winner and flag bearer for the ruling party, APC, but his victory has been marred by accusations of fraud and hijacking by other governorship aspirants in the party. They claim the election was not transparent and fair and have leveled charges of manipulation against the state governor, Fayemi. Can the party resolve this conflict before the June 18 governorship polls? I'll be joined in the studio by the spokesperson of one of the aggrieved aspirants. I'm Somna Sambu, and this is the Arise interview. All things being equal, the electorate in Nigeria's southwestern Ekiti state will head to the polls to pick a new governor in 4 months. But the dominant parties in the state, the ruling All Progressives Congress and the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, are battling disputes and squabbles following elections to choose flag bearers for the parties. Biodun Oyebanji was declared winner of the APC's direct governorship primary conducted across the 177 wards in the state. But while the accreditation was still in progress, 7 aspirants announced a boycott of the poll over alleged compromise by the Electoral Committee in favor of Oyebanji. They accused the state governor, Fayemi, of backing Oyebanji and have called for the cancellation of the election. Let's listen.
That all the people that have been nominated to conduct this election in the various wards are the supporters of one of the aspirants. Many of them are currently holding important government positions. The rest are top party people who are supporting him. As you will see in evidence very soon, many of them actually accompanying that particular aspirant to Lagos to obtain his form. They have been actively campaigning with him, and we have pictorial evidence. And these are the people, who have been nominated to go and be returning officers in all the wards.
Sensitive election materials that were meant to be distributed at this secretariat by before 8 a.m. this morning in the presence of aspirants or their agents were distributed between 10 p.m. and 12 midnight last night. And all the people that we're talking about were handed over, sensitive electoral material, including the result sheet.
Aggrieved aspirants of the APC speaking on the day of the primary election in Ekiti. And I have in the studio with me Honorable Bimbo Daramola, the Director General of the campaign organization of Senator Fayemi, who is one of the aggrieved aspirants in the Ekiti state primaries. And it's good to have you here, Fayemi. It's been a very tough challenge for you and your principal, alongside others who walked out on that day, saying that the APC primary wasn't conducted. Now, you have said you're going to court. That's what Fayemi has said. And there are different persons being sent to not just him, but even other aspirants to ensure that the APC has a united family ahead of the governorship polls. Why don't you want to queue behind Oyebanji?
Well, let me first and foremost clear that I'm not the Director General of the campaigns of Senator Michael Fayemi. I just speak for a part of the campaigns because I know him and I know his intentions. But the first question you asked me is about Biodun. I call him Biodun, Abbey City.
Oyebanji.
Yes, he's been my friend of 30 years, and I've maintained what I would rather call a stoic silence, But while I was anticipating that those who should rise up to deal with this matter in quick turnaround time are not doing that. They are hanging on Biodun's neck, a huge legitimacy, an albatross of legitimacy that it doesn't need. I speak because I have spent 22 years in this party. I have been on panels with Biodun for 7 years. He is eminently qualified, is suitable, but the point is that people have issues with the process and the procedure adopted. I am speaking today not because I hate Biodun, absolutely not, but because I believe that the situation shouldn't be the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah, but the guidelines were actually read out to all aspirants on election
let
day.
me finish. I think one of the reasons why I have chosen to want to speak on this matter is because some of the leading lights of our party are also very dismissive. They've been like, okay, damn the bullshit. I've watched people on this station, and thank you for being so kind to give the opportunity to speak. I have seen Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi, my very dear Egbon, speak on this channel, on this station. I have seen Honorable Ibrahim speak on another sister channel. And I'm asking myself, do they really understand the fact that on the day of election, on the day of the general election, all of these guys who are amplifying things that and re-echoing things that are so inflammatory at this time won't be in Inyi, where Kwembamdele is, standing guard for the party. They won't be in Ode, standing guard for the party as Fapi would.
Because it was a direct primary.
Because, no, I'm talking about the consequences of this. But let me speak about that election. Now, having been a product of this process for almost 22 years, like I said, I have been a candidate myself before. What people have issues with are, one, a situation where it would appear, or indeed appeared, that compromises had been secured in favor of somebody before. And I'll give you an example of that. Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi said something that I felt was very unfair on the side of this leading lights of a party who are protesting at this time. He said, well, I understand the sentiments of losing election. I understand, because he said he had lost elections before, and so he understood the sentiment.
Before he eventually got back to the Senate.
And I'm saying that when he lost elections before, what did he do? He folded his arms. The question to ask is that, what are the grievances of these people?
Yeah, and
to the extent that,
sorry to actually just cut in, there's a National Reconciliation Committee that's ongoing. The efforts to reconcile all aggrieved aspirants. Isn't the party still providing an avenue for all of you to lay your grievances? Why are you not adopting that? I'm
aware that these gentlemen met the appeals committee that was not inaugurated in the first place, just like the election petition committee, the election management committee also. But the truth of the matter is that though some of the aspirants got to the venue of the appeals before the appeals committee members showed up, apparently they were calling them on phone to come and sit in to attend to the appeal. Up till now, nobody has seen the results of the appeal. We don't have too much of time to heal and to bring things back and get people on the same page to face the general elections. This is my concern. I would hate a situation where by default we would throw away the gains of the last 8 years. We should build on the profile of the party to the extent that next election should be a walk through the park for all.
And that's why a lot of people will say you should forgo some of these challenges and then queue behind Oyebanji, because that's who the party recognizes. I mean, during the results being released, I mean, the party's results should show that he had 95% of the votes on the day of the primary, as announced by the Jigawa State Governor, Muhammad Badaru. In all of this, don't you think there should be a win-win situation for both, or you still want to go to court and challenge?
You remember that building that went down in Lagos, Four Shores. Why did it go down? It went down because the foundation wasn't right.
So are you saying Oyebanji will go down like that?
No.
Is that what you're insinuating?
Hang on a second. You asked me, why are we not queuing behind him? And I'm saying that, and I've dealt with the issue of the suitability and how qualified Biodun is. I am saying that this dismissive and inflammatory approach to dealing with this matter is not helping even Biodun and our state. Let me tell you, Biodun is one person. There are so many other people whose political fortune rests on the decision of the party with regards to this matter. How do you go ahead? And then somebody said, oh, okay, if they've lost election, and that kind of a statement. And I'm saying that they also, every politician also realizes that I may lose this election anyway. If you go into an election, you also have it at the back of your mind that things will go south, and then you don't win. So,
are you afraid for the fortunes of the APC ahead of that June 18 governorship polls if these issues are not quickly resolved?
My answer would be in the affirmative, yes.
You think the PDP will come back to power?
I'm not going to tell whether the PDP is going to come to power, but I'm afraid, like you rightly said. How do you have people who are put in, can you put together the political profile and the years of politicking and the weight of these guys as we go into this election? And they're going into that election with some of these guys being unhappy?
Well, it was a direct primary, and so that means it's members of the party that queued behind the candidate that they liked.
Let me also tell you that December 26, 2021, please find out, do your investigative journalism about what happened on December 26, 2021, when the governor met with these same delegates and members of this party. Biodun was in attendance, the governor was in attendance.
All right, just hold on.
Now, if the party people reacted like that on that day within the precincts of the governor's house, not government house, governor's house, then you should know. Now, we're talking about human beings. We're not talking about robots. We're not talking about machines. We're talking about people who have emotions. And if emotions are running riot like this, we hold ourselves that guilty. One of the things that I would have expected, don't forget that I ran for governor in 2018.
Very well.
And I stopped that election. I stopped that primary election. I told Senator Amakura, I said, sir, I would like to know what the secretary of the party, what his roles will be on this panel. So, but for the fact that these guys practically did not follow through the process.
Yeah, and that process you keep mentioning, because the guidelines were read to all aspirants.
I was there. And when they raised the issue of, oh, look at the list of people who will manage elections, and I'm going to deal with the fact that the Senator Adetumi said, oh, the elections didn't happen at the ward. No, it didn't happen at the collation center, that it happened at the police units. Oh, that's correct. But the truth of the matter is that when you give the life, the bloodline to a particular aspirant, visibly so, these guys said they raised the objection.
All right, I'll just ask you to hold on because we have to go on a short break. Okay. When we come back, you will get the opportunity to complete your statement. You're still watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Somna Sambo, and we had Honorable Bimbo Daramola, who's one of the spokespersons of the campaign organizations in the All Progressives Congress in Ekiti State, where we had that primary and there were lots of grievances, and I still have him here with me. And I will go to the issues of the guidelines. There were guidelines read to all aspirants, and some of them listened and agreed, but a lot of persons were actually surprised that they decided to walk out after having agreed to the guidelines rolled out by the APC right from the National Secretariat here, including some innovations that were introduced according to what we heard in terms of membership lists and all of that.
It's going to be my word against yours. Okay? I was there. And God forbid that I would gloss over issues or come on national television and lie. I went all the way to Senator Michael Fayemi Bamidele right at that event. I was there. I walked up to him. He was sitting in front. And I showed him, these are the people that the party, it was not, they didn't hide it. These are the people that they said will manage elections. And I saw the names of people that I know too well. My sister Kemi Olaleye, of course, Adeoye, Adibasoye, and a number of all of these people. And the excuse is that we cannot manufacture people to come and manage that elections. All right? That's fine. But the truth of the matter is that at the heart of any process, any contest or contestation will be fairness, justice. You must transparently be able to reconcile the process with the end result. If there's a disparity, if it gets bumpy along the way, then you have cast yourself in a position where you will have all kinds of things like this. Okay. Now, how come that, number one, all of those guys, or particularly all the chairmen of the committees to manage that election, are people in government or elected officials of government. Okay?
Of
the state.
Of the state.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, number two is the fact that this election is going to be conducted in 177 wards in any case. And Senator Bimbo said, these people, that all party faithfuls will have taken positions. Like I took and queued behind MOB. And every other person behind Joe, behind all of
yeah, I mean,
but the truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is that the committee arrived Ekiti too late in the day, and so they didn't have enough of time to be able to manage the process really well. When they were pushed to the point where they said, let us also nominate people into the election management process, the committee graciously allowed them to bring 20. And then it was a ding dong, bring 20, bring 25. And of course, you've had the maths of that. If every one of them brings 20 multiplied by 7, it comes to a meager number, 170. This election will be conducted in 177 wards. So, the difference between that, who benefits from it?
Now, what was the role of Fayemi? Because you are accusing, I mean, all the aspirants are accusing him of influencing the process in one way or the other. As a governor, isn't it his right to actually want to determine who should also succeed him? I mean, he, just like you have a right to support Fayemi Bamidele, he also has a right to actually put his weight behind someone.
I was on television, I was on another program, and I said, I don't even know why they're fighting shy. What's the point about saying, oh, I'm not backing him? And it's obvious that your hands and your imprimatur are there.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. You know, Biodun is using his campaign office. And don't forget that I've known Dr. Fayemi for 40 years, maybe more. I was his DG. I've known him way back in 1978. So, but what I'm saying is this. In all of these things, he could say that, yes, I care about who succeeds me. And then Biodun is the one that I've chosen. But it should not tweak with the process in a manner that would jeopardize the larger interest of all party faithfuls.
Do you foresee some of these aggrieved members leaving the APC?
Well, I can't speak for them. The only person I can speak for at this time is Senator Michael Bamidele, who I know is a die-hard party man. He's a die-in-wool party person. And so the first option for him is to see that we've gone, listen, this is a party of history. Everybody could see the glamour of a party in power, of a party in Abuja now, of a party in the state, but we didn't just get there. There were people whose hands remained well on deck and remained on deck, and I humbly want to say, hi, sitting across the table, talking to you today, I am one of them. Fayemi Bamidele, just like 5 others are. So, we speak to what pains and hurts us, because our party came riding on puritanical credentials. We didn't come into government sounding like every other party.
So that's to say that the APC is no longer pure in Ekiti State.
You see, you keep imputing. I know you need.
So you're saying that it's diluted right now.
I know you need.
But if Fayemi Bamidele had won, would it have been still puritanical?
If Fayemi Bamidele had won under this circumstance, I would be in this studio telling him that you did not win right, fair, square, and proper. That's who I am. That's my DNA. I care about this party.
How true is it that some of these aspirants have also said that they will remain in the APC, but they are going to teach the APC a lesson that it will never forget in Ekiti
Well,
State?
again, I can't speak for all of them.
So what's Fayemi Bamidele saying? Does he agree to that line of thought?
That
he wouldn't move from the APC, but he will stay in APC
I am not too sure those
but teach the APC a
sure,
lesson it will
I'm
never
not too
forget.
Sure. He had made himself abundantly clear without shade of doubt. I want this process re-looked into. End of story.
What exactly do you want from your political camp?
Get the party at the national to look at. Now let me tell you this. If we didn't have an election coming up in Ekiti State, His Excellency Governor Badaru won't have any business, and the 7 others won't have any business. So being in Ekiti was not being gracious. It was not being gratuitous. They had a duty to the party, but more than anything else, to everybody who had lost a limb, shed a drop of blood in advancement of this party, running into this election. Do you know, listen, politics is an emotional affair. And I expect that leading lights of the party like His Excellency Governor Badaru should know that. In that, I began to get worried when Senator Badaru had agreed to meet with these aspirants at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock before the commencement of the election.
Of the primary itself.
And then right through that, about 9 or 10 o'clock, the secretary, Honorable Labinton, or whatever his name is, said he's not going to meet with you anymore. You guys had put things out.
Now, do you foresee...
No. Would you think that's the right thing to say?
Do you think
to
that...
a senator, to a House of Representatives, and then to a group of people who in less than 9 months will join the governor's forum, and then they will become his colleague. He may be the senior, he may be a senior governor, so to speak, but these guys one out of these guys will take the seat of Ekiti in the governor's forum.
Do you think that Governor Badaru may have been doing Governor Fayemi a favor by, according to what these aspirants are saying, influencing the outcome of the election for the betterment of a potential successor chosen by Fayemi?
I credit the decency of the 7 people or the 8 people who contested that election. I give them a lot of credit. If I were...
But you're still doubting the outcome of the primary.
I'm speaking about this now. But listen, every claim we put on the table they're not phantom. Why? Okay, what was the rush to give out results sheets overnight?
So you think Oyebanji couldn't have got a 95% if that election had gone the way you wanted?
You're taking me to the realms of conjecture. I won't go into the realms of conjecture. I am sticking by reality and facts that nobody can deny. People have put out the face of Kemi Olaleye. People have put out the face of... I saw a picture of one out of those guys conducting the accreditation who had Biodun's cap on him. And an appointee of government. Isn't that psychological torment for anybody or other people who would have wanted to vote anywhere else? Anyway. There must be a reason why INEC says don't wear party indents and statements. And then let me also say to you that, yes, I agree, this should have been a coronation of some sort. Because we're trying to get an Olori Ebi.
Can there ever be any time that you hold party primaries and you wouldn't see people standing against the person who emerged? Because this was a direct primary, unlike that of maybe the PDP that uses indirect primary more. Yeah. In this issue of direct primary, I mean, there will definitely be, party supporters who are influenced in one way or the other to vote a particular candidate.
Let me say this to you, and it is very simple. What strategic advantage does it come to anybody if that list had been, if some other people had been incorporated into that list? For instance, while giving some of those election materials to Kemi Olaleye, it would have been nice to give some to MOB's person. It would be nice to give some.
Did you make an effort and you weren't given?
They sent in 20 names. We never saw an alternative list.
Which was being fair to you by recommending that 2020
I take objection to being fair.
Well, that's what they actually said.
No,
they said that it was in the spirit of fairness that they granted that 2020 slots
isn't that,
to you.
Okay, look at where fairness has taken us now. Do you know what fairness means?
What should actually be done by the APC national headquarters to assuage the feelings of your group?
Listen, everything that everybody that had anything, let me start by saying this, and I say it with all due respect. All of these guys coughed out 22.5 million naira to be able to run at that election.
So you want reforms?
No. I'm telling you, I'm laying the background. 2, every one of these guys represents the vision, the dream of some of the party people. Their aspiration. Some of them are plugged into the vision of these guys, as in, when MOB becomes governor, this is going to be this is the Ekiti that I like to see. And then you truncated that. How are you going to get that kind of person to come on June 18th to go vote? We're isolating the issues. We're building castles around individuals. And we're forgetting the fact that there's a foundation on which the castle must sit. And the foundation are the people who voted or who will vote at the election on June 18th.
All right, we have to go on another short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. You're still watching the Horizon TV. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Horizon TV, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we've been discussing elections in Ekiti State as it has to do with party primaries. And I've had in the studio with me Honorable Bimbo Daramola, who is a spokesperson for the campaign organization of Senator Fayemi Bamidele, who's one of the aggrieved aspirants in the Ekiti State primaries that actually walked out of that election and is still seeking justice based on what he says is the situation. And we're being joined right now by Arise analyst Professor Biodun Adeni to help us take a look at these critical issues. And just before I bring Prof in, what do you make of statement by some of the APC leaders in Ekiti that we should stop downgrading Oyebanji because some people say he's a lightweight, that big names don't win elections all the time, that for him to have had those numbers of APC members queuing behind him, it means he's a grassroots politician?
Okay. You're asking me to put a verdict on my friend of 30 years. I wouldn't do that. But let me say to you that Biodun had also paid his dues. Biodun had paid his dues. I mean, we're in the strategy committee of Dr. Fayemi for 7 years without being paid. And of course, it's sound, yes. But this issue is not about Biodun. It's not about Biodun.
So is it also about big names? Because some of
now,
the
number two is the
that
fact is that it's an assumption to, it doesn't come into this election that light, like, oh yes, it doesn't have any value. No. How can you say that? And nobody will take away, I won't stand in a place where anybody will take away the credentials of Biodun to be governor. Never. He just left this position as SSG. He was there when, as one of the kids who were around, people drafting the whole thing about Ekiti State, being commissioner and all of those things and all that. And Biodun is intelligent. There's no doubt about that. But the issue at this point in time is, how do we ensure that we don't hang on Biodun's neck and albatross that will question his legitimacy and capacity to deliver, which is ultimately what we'll be asking for if he becomes the candidate of the party.
So it's not about Biodun
no.
as a person, it's about the process.
Now Biodun wasn't the one that mandated people to share result sheets overnight.
Well, that's an allegation, and it's still...
I said he wasn't. But that's how I can show you pictures. Why do you do that? And you don't listen. It is not for nothing that journalists are called the fourth estate of the realm. Next to judiciary, you will be the perfect arbiter.
Yeah, but we are not politicians, and in this instance, the national working committee of the party has actually thrown its weight behind Oyebanji. So, what do you think journalists should be doing at this point in time?
I am saying that, in addition to realizing what the national working committee, and there's nothing to suggest that the national working committee may not be wrong, and if they're wrong, why gloss over it?
Well, it's like the appeals panel actually determined.
Thank you very much. That's another arm of the party in anticipation that elections may not go as predicted. An appeals committee must stand in place and be alive and have a soul.
Do you have a problem with the appeals committee? Do you believe in its ability to render justice to all the aspirants?
I would parrot what my principal said, that some of them even got to the appeals committee before the members of the committee. Don't forget that we're talking about, how do we know? Just saw a list of people without inauguration, no proper inauguration of these committees.
Well,
so that question that now, not only that, up until now, nobody had seen that. There was a video where Kafila Togbara was challenged by regular people. Not okay.
All right, I just need to bring in Prof right now. What do you make of these party primaries in Ekiti? Just like the way it's hot in the APC, that's how it's been hot in the PDP. Politicians are disagreeing on who actually emerged. In this instance, how do you think that this will affect the fortunes of these two big parties if they are unable to settle these critical issues of internal democracy?
Well, they are very complex issues, Sumner. And it's very unfortunate, but they are also very predictable, considering that the fact that the internal mechanism of the parties are still very weak. there's still a tendency for individuals to be influential, and for their influence to rub off on processes and procedures of the parties, but at the same time, you may not want to blame these individuals because they are human beings and they have interests to protect, rightly or wrongly, and it's something that will continue to still be with us over time. But now we have had the primaries in Ekiti, how do we proceed? I think that's should be our focus, as the case could be. But how do we proceed? Other than reconciliation, other than assuaging or mitigating the pains, the hurts of participants. I don't know what else we can do.
Yeah, but
because if you
some of them have said that they're actually going to court, while some actually still believe that the appeals panel will be able to resolve some issues in that case of the APC. Do you think that this party has the capacity to actually resolve these issues quickly before the June 18 governorship polls?
I think they should try to resolve it. They should try, because all the contestants, if you watch, all the contestants are ordinarily very competent people, capable of being governors. At the end of the day, if you conduct the elections 20 times, you still find protestation 20 times over. So it's going to be more likely to be something that will continue to characterize our political process. What you do at the end of the day is just to build consensus post-election, post-primary stage, assuage them. There are ways of doing it, and of course, in their own terms, they talk about promises, compensation, allocation of positions and all of that. If that's what should be done in the interest of peace, I think the party should go ahead and begin to talk to these people, because it's not just for the sake of APC now or for the sake of PDP, but for the entire political process, which we need to be very calm in the overarching interest of our democracy.
All right, and just like it is with Fayose and former Governor Oni, that's how some people are likening this to Okweme Bamidele and Governor Fayemi. Do you think that Fayemi betrayed the trust of your elites in the APC in Ekiti State?
I can speak for myself and a few people that I know, yes.
And what should he have done that he didn't do?
Okay, fine. I told you that this is a party of history. Forget the glamour of being in power in Ekiti or in Abuja. Listen, if you remember a guy called Professor Momo, he was beaten, shredded into bits. Some of us went through all kinds of things. And so we reflect on where we're coming from.
As pro-democracy activists and all of that.
Yes, we went through.
So you think Governor Fayemi is not doing what he had previously said he was as a pro-democracy activist?
Now, every epaulet that you wear on your shoulders should also moderate every action you take. If you wear the epaulet of a captain, you will be expected to function within the ambit of that position, of that rank that you wear. If you wear the epaulet of a field marshal, there are things that will be expected that you can. So if Dr. Fayemi had, in addition to all of those things, all of the profile he parades, and also had served our state as governor for 8 years, I am not too sure this is the way he wants to write the prologue, or this is the best way to write, not the prologue, the epilogue. The epilogue of his time in office. I'm not too sure. Some of us, listen, and I've had reasons to say this to him before. You should be mindful of the verdict of history, the judgment of history. Yeah, but all of this will pass away. Now let me say something. Of course, everything, and I'm happy that Prof had navigated very carefully. He's been navigating. I don't understand that, but that's okay. But I'm not in a position to speak like that, because first and foremost,
in a position to take sides now.
I'm taking sides. I'm taking sides on the side of truth.
And what's the truth? What's the truth in this instance?
That the process, in as much as these guys didn't all of a sudden realize that, oh, this was what's going to happen to us, and then quickly banded to say, no, we're going to try. No, people began to analyze that. When we were going to bed, as at the time they left that meeting, I was there. Everything was okay, corroborating what Governor Badaru said. Things went south by 11 o'clock, when people began to see pictures of the guys who were taking election materials. You don't build a party like that. And it is not about the big names. Listen, the big names at best will reflect what the aspiration, not the big names will have the ambition, but what they represent is the aspiration of the people.
All right. Prof, there's a failure of elite consensus in Ekiti as it stands right now. Just like I had mentioned earlier in the APC, you have Kwame Bamidele against Governor Fayemi right now, and then alongside others, I mean, then you also have in the PDP Fayeshe against versus Oni. Now we hear Oni is actually going to declare for the All Progressives Grand Alliance tomorrow after leaving the party during the weekend. In all of this, how do you think this will affect the way the electorate will view who to actually queue behind in June?
But for the electorates, you know, they're just there most of the time, almost at the mercy of the elites, you know. And of course, these elites too, they can be very sophisticated, and it's always very difficult for them to come to an agreement. You know, it is a state as sophisticated as Ekiti. Like I said earlier, you do not expect not to see what is transpiring now. It is expected, but how we manage it is what matters. And it speaks again to the weakness, you know, internal crisis resolution mechanism of the parties is still very, very weak. And that's what is affecting the overall electoral process. While INEC is threatening the mechanism for electoral process, you know, the parties are still very weak. You see INEC doing very well, improving through technology, but not the parties. You know, you see endless bickering, endless troublemaking.
Unlike former Governor Oni that has left the PDP to APGA, like we hear, some of the other aspirants in APC say they're actually going to stay in the party, but they will show APC a lesson.
Well, which could be a problem too.
So do you foresee them actually doing anti-party in that regard?
I want to believe that. I want to trust some of these personalities. Some of them I know through parasocial relationship, through their public reputation. I do know that they are smart enough to reach some kind of consensus before the election itself. You know, of course, Kwame Bamidele, for instance, a distinguished student union leader, a former House of Representative member, you know, is a serving senator, and of course, Governor Fayemi, for instance, whose name is all constantly being mentioned, is a temperate person, sophisticated.
Yeah, do you think his pro-democracy credentials should be questioned at this point in time?
No, I don't think so.
He's unhappy with how Fayemi has been able to handle this. I mean, he's just saying it that if this is going to be the epilogue of a book to be written on Fayemi's time in the government house there, then it means something is wrong.
Yeah, without we fought to get him into government house for 3 years unbroken. We fought to get there, and thank you very much for being very generous with my candidate. You know, the truth of the matter is that it is not even about Dr. Fayemi.
So who should be responsible for the process?
My brother, we're raising a generation that will fit into Dr. Fayemi's shoes, and this is not the kind of background that they must be raised. He has spoken about weak systems, and where I also disagree with him was where he said he felt that this is not like unexpected. I disagree. Listen, it's a black and white thing. Don't talk about being gray. Yeah.
Well, in politics, you don't have black and white.
Let me say to you. Listen. When a man is declared, don't forget that I told you
very quickly. We need to go on another break.
Okay, I told you that emotions drive politics, not reason, and people are not rational sometimes. People are considerate of, this has to be done. This is the person to protect my interest. But first and foremost, all of these guys are party people, and they must be seen to be given the opportunity fair and square.
All right, we'll be going on this short break. When we come back, we'll still continue a conversation on the politics of Ekiti ahead of the governorship polls there in June. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Somna Sambo, and we've been taking a critical look at the politics of Ekiti State in the southwestern part of Nigeria as it regards to the party primaries in the All Progressives Congress, and touching a little on the People's Democratic Party too and its internal troubles ahead of the June 18 governorship polls in that state. I still have in the studio with me Honorable Bimbo Daramola, the spokesperson of the campaign organization of Senator Fayemi Bamidele, who is one of the aggrieved aspirants in the Ekiti State primaries that walked out, as well as Arise analyst Professor Biodun Adeni. And Prof, I come to you on this issue of the walkout on that day of the party primaries. Do you think it was the best decision for these other aspirants to actually do?
We can look at it in different ways. First, it was an emotional moment. You may not necessarily rule out those kind of bus stops. and of course, if they acted on the spur of the moment, maybe out of anger, we may not necessarily be judgmental about their action. It was probably satisfying. Perhaps if they had stayed, maybe crisis or some kind of violence or exchange of hot words, strong words might have ensued. So it was okay, maybe relieving that he stepped out. But on the other hand, living that kind of environment may also mean that you are risking some of your privileges, some rights and privileges that you'll have enjoyed, while being contestant. So there are different ways in which you can look at it. But what we should be looking at now, it's the outcome of the entire process. And of course, the point still has to be made that in our kind of environment, in our kind of state electioneering process, it is very difficult for us not to have the state machinery, rightly or wrongly, supporting one candidate, But for the parties, or for us, for our democracy, internal democratic process, to move away from that, we have to strengthen the mechanism for the parties to conduct the elections.
Yeah, but these same elections, party primaries, have to be conducted by party members. Do we need to go and bring the INEC to start conducting party primaries?
No.
INEC is supposed to just be there and observe.
We need some level of behavioral change.
Yeah, so how do we get these political parties to ensure that they adhere to their internal democratic practices?
It goes back to
the question of to ensure that they provide level playing ground for all contestants.
Yeah, maybe to take time for us to do this, we're able to separate the party leadership at the states, either whether or not they are controlling the levers of government from the party leaders itself, when elections come to the fore. In a situation where maybe a sitting governor belongs to a party and elections will have to be held, maybe primary will have to be held, we need to find a system where they will be independent of each other. The party will work independent away from the governance machinery, because you'll be tempted, whoever that is in that kind of position can be tempted to deploy the state machinery, rightly or wrongly, in support of his own candidate. I'm not saying that happened in Ekiti, as been alleged by Honorable, but of course they understand these things, they know what actually transpired. But the bottom line, is that, something have to give in this circumstance. And what has to give? Hurt, pain, disappointment.
So there should be reconciliation right now.
There should be reconciliation. So
okay, what should the National Working Committee of the party and appeals do very quickly to resolve this issue?
I think they've appeared, the candidates, the aspirants have appeared before the appeals committee, and I expect that every one word uttered by these gentlemen should be looked at. At the end of the day, it won't be about these individuals at the end of the day. It will be about many more people who are looking forward to the post-Fayemi years.
Do you want fresh primaries in Ekiti State?
I'm not even too sure if we have that indulgence of time anymore. I'm not very sure. But if we do, why not? I mean, if Biodun is that popular, he's going to win anyway.
So if time is against the party and we're already heading towards the electioneering period where campaigns will actually start, what do you think is the right thing for the aspirants to also do? To either support this candidate or not to do? What's the option that's left for them? I'm not too sure
it's about the aspirants. It's so much about a process so considered not only by the aspirants, but many other party people. I'm not an aspirant. And I also have people that I represent. Listen, my leadership responsibility did not terminate when I left the House of Representatives. I practically would have to service that responsibility for the rest of my life. This is one of those times. So I am conscious of a question like, oh, what did Bimbo say when this happened? Like Americans would say, where were you on 9/11? So my take on this is, in the interest of also whoever wins should also be able to do his agbada like this on inauguration day without people doing like...
Yeah, but Oyebanji is already reaching out to all the aspirants.
Well, to the extent
that... they accept his olive branch?
Were you witnesses to that? Have you been a witness to that kind of a reach out? I am too sure that Biodun is an amenable fellow. He's a calm fellow. But you see, the point is that let us not also put on Biodun the kind of tag that he shouldn't have. I believe very strongly that this is a political party. it is not a personal property.
Well, Prof is actually not clear on exactly what they may want at this time. And then considering that he has actually said that time may be against the party, what would you on your own subscribe to as the best way out of this intra-party crisis that we have?
Yeah, but there are so many crisis resolution mechanisms within the party. We have Board of Trustees, we have the National Executive Committee, even though they are still a caretaker now. The president is also there. Some of these personalities, institutions within the party can step in. And of course, I cannot imagine the president, for instance, calling all the aspirants together and they will not listen to him. I can't imagine that happening. Or maybe the chairman of the party, for instance, the chairman of the caretaker committee. So party elders can step in at this time. You know, no matter how painful the outcome has turned out to be, you know, there can still be reconciliation. You know, there's no end to talking to people. You know, harmony is priceless. It's a noble way to go in the circumstance.
All right. And just before we come to a conclusion of this show, there's been this accusation that Governor Maimala Buni, being the caretaker committee of the APC himself, is helping some governors who are going to help plant their successors and all of that. Do you think in one way or the other that may have been the situation in Ekiti State?
Well, you see, like I said, I may not be able to speak about what the Chairman Caretaker and Convention Committee, you know, is disposition to this. I am not in a position to say that.
Because we had also another governor who went there to condemn this primary.
That. Okay, two things. Thank you for reminding me about that. Now, two things could have happened or may have been considered. Number one, 177 wards. We could get half from Oshun and half from Ondo to come and conduct that election. Number two, it would have also been fair to say, okay, as we're giving to Kemi Olaleye and giving to all of these characters that people have adduced our campaign managers to be able to give to some other people, and then that would have evened out.
So that they'll be also on the
panel. So that they'll be on the panel and everybody can say, yes, oh, check you, I check me, and all of that. And lastly, let me say to you that if I were on that, I think that we should not continually, in 2018, what we had to go through was the president had to host us to dinner to quieten the storm. Why must that be the safety valve always? When this president that we know is also a president of righteousness?
Very quickly, do you foresee the APC winning the 2022 Ekiti governorship election?
I believe that we should be able to win if all things are equal.
All right, politicians, we must thank you so much. Honorable Bimbo Daramola, a spokesperson of the Fayemi Bamidele campaign organization, and Professor Abiodun Adeni, who's a Rise News analyst, has joined us to take a look at this issue. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of the Rise interview. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambu.